Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Upgrades. I'm Jeremy Knoll.
And I'm John Suarez.
And today we are talking about the Forces of the Imperium deck from the Warhammer 40,000 Commander decks. So this one is the Esper deck. It is white, blue, black. And it is, it's a little kind of everywhere. It's humans.
It really is.
But it's got a bunch of different things you can do with it. So to go over some stats before we get into the deck, outside of the commander, there are 30 creatures, 6 instants, 8 sorceries, 14 artifacts, 4 enchantments, and 37 lands. And like all of the other Warhammer 40,000 decks, there are 41 new cards in the deck. That's a lot.
They really outdid themselves.
They really did. So normally we've been talking about, in previous episodes of Upgrades, we've been talking about the 10 new cards in each deck, with there being 41 new cards in this deck. We're just going to go over a few of them here. The first one is going to be the face card of the deck, and that is Inquisitor Greyfax. This is a legendary creature, Human Inquisitor, for 1 white, blue, black. It's a 3/3 with Vigilance, and it says Unquestionable Wisdom. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 and have Vigilance. And Hunt for Heresy, pay 1, tap it, tap target creature an opponent controls, investigate. So that kind of leads you to, there's already a couple of different things that this face commander can do. You probably want to be playing some tokens to gain advantage of that first ability, and then you're kind of controlling a little bit. You're trying to tap things down. You're trying to investigate a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're trying to like make, it's weird because that first one really makes you seem aggressive, and that second one really makes you seem
Master
more
Decoy ability is not normally
mid-range.
it's not normally an aggressive tactic, but investigating's great.
Yeah.
I like drawing cards, so why not? So the other not face card, but the other commander for this deck that you can play right out of the box as is Marnus Calgar. 2 colors, white, blue, black, 3/5. It is a legendary creature. I'm going to butcher this. Everybody's going to be mad, but it's Astartes Warrior.
Yep.
Double strike, Master Tactician. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Big fan of that ability. And then Chapter Master, pay 6, create 2/2 white Astartes Warrior creature tokens with Vigilance.
Yep. So I did look it up. If you watched the episode of Commanderverse where we played these, I did say that I wasn't sure about the Imperium of Man and the Chaos Marine, or in the Space Marines.
But he's right there.
Space Marines are a part of the Imperium of Man. The problem is that I was so used to like the 2 decades ago when I played, some of the RTSs and like a little bit of the RPG. It was mostly like Space Marines were a faction. That was like a thing you could play, and I always saw them as separate from the Imperium of Man. But Space Marines or Astartes Warrior, as they also call themselves.
Sure.
You're going to see a lot of that in this deck as well.
Yep.
So the next card is another legendary creature, but is not one that you can put at the helm of the deck, is Inquisitor Eisenhorn. And that's a 2/3 legendary creature, Human Inquisitor, for 2 blue-black. And you may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, create Cherubal Bale, a legendary 4/4 black demon creature token with flying. And whenever Inquisitor Eisenhorn deals combat damage to a player, investigate that many times. So this is kind of an interesting one in that you can get, if you're really focused a little bit more on the spell slinging, you can get a token, but it is a legendary token. So you can really only do that once every now and then, unless you're trying to sacrifice it.
I was going to say, sacrifice it, plus the Wizards has had a habit of making these new clones that make them not legendary on all of them. So
yeah, and then it also has, if you want to make it real big, you can get investigating a whole bunch.
Sure.
A whole bunch of blue tokens.
Yep. I'm going to hop over to another commander from this deck. Now, again, you can't put this at the helm of it. This is a mono-white one. That is Celestine, the Living Saint. 4 colors and a white. 3/4 legendary creature, Human Warrior, has flying and lifelink and healing tiers. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be a really interesting one to build around on its own.
I have a feeling it's going to do mean things, not fun ones.
Yeah, not fun ones. You're gonna gain some life, and you're gonna be bringing back like your Elish Norns and stuff like that. Just by gaining because mono white, you're gonna gain the life. You're gonna gain a decent amount of life each turn if you're actively trying to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you just put a big equipment on this.
Yeah, big equipment is going to be a big thing in this too. The next one is going to be Vexilus Prader. Actually, no, let me jump down here. I apologize. We do have one more legendary creature that I almost missed here. Commissar Severina Rain, and that is a legendary creature, human soldier, 2/2, 1 white-black. Leading from the front, whenever Commissar Severin Rain attacks, each opponent loses X life or X the number of other attacking creatures. And then summary execution, pay 2, sacrifice another creature, you gain 2 life, and draw a card.
Yes. I'm a very big fan of that first part of this card.
Mm-hmm.
Get something like a Dahlmgate or...
Each opponent.
Yeah, each opponent. Not the opponent attacking, everybody.
The number of other attacking creatures. So again, trying to kind of feed into that like almost token strategy or really trying to be aggressive and low to the ground. But yeah, there's a lot there. So why don't you go over that?
Sure. I'll go over Vexilus Prader. This is a creature, Custodius Warrior, 3 colors and a white, 3/4, has Flash and Vigilance. In Aegis of the Empire, or of the Emperor, commanders you control have protection from everything.
That's
sweet.
That's really cool.
Flash, so that you can just counter whatever they're doing to your commander. Yeah.
Protection from everything is really neat.
This next card, I think, is probably the best card in the deck, but I'll let you go.
Defenders of Humanity? Yeah, this one is the one that, Stephen Green played this deck in our episode, and this card was real good. Defenders of Humanity is X, 2 and a white, enchantment. When Defenders of Humanity enters the battlefield, create X, 2/2 white, Astartes, I'm going to get that wrong again, warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. But it also has X, 2 white, exile it, create X, 2/2 white, Astartes, warrior creature tokens with Vigilance, activate only if you control no creatures and only during your turn.
Yeah.
So this one's wild.
That card's very good. Having protection from a sweeper in the form of being able to just recreate your entire board is it's pretty nice.
It's an enchantment that stays on the battlefield and then basically has flashback from the battlefield instead of from the graveyard.
Yep.
It's really cool. I like this one a lot.
My favorite card from this deck was the Golden Throne. 4 colorless, legendary artifact, arcane life support. If you would lose the game, instead exile the Golden Throne and your life total becomes 1. Then it has 1,000 souls die every day. You tap it, sacrifice a creature, and add 3 mana in any combination of colors.
Yeah, that one did some work.
That card is real sweet.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of a safety net in case somebody decides to kill you out of nowhere, and it just, it's kind of like a Gilded Lotus in the sense of adding colored mana, but also gives you a sacrifice outlet.
Yep.
Sweet card.
That's really cool. The next one is Cybernetica Datasmith, 0/1 human artifact creature, human artificer, 1 blue-black, protection from robots, field reprogramming, blue, and tap it. Target player draws a card. Another target player creates a 4/4 colorless robot artifact creature token with this creature can't block.
Protection from robots is now a text in Magic. I love it. Big fan of this. Great card. Great card.
I'm going to change the creature type of that to what? Robot.
Yep, I'm going to change it to robot. It's officially a robot. Arcbound Ravager is no longer a beast, now a robot. And the last new card we're going to highlight is Exterminatus. This is 5 colors, white, black, sorcery, non-land permanents your opponents control, lose indestructible until end of turn, and destroy all non-land permanents. I know it should destroy the lands, it just doesn't want to. If they've decided that they're going to completely decimate your planet, the lands are included in the planet. But I understand what they're going for. They don't want we don't want to blow up lands.
This should blow up everything.
It should be obliterate.
Yeah, it's
obliterate. But
obnoxious.
I get it. You don't want to blow up lands in a pre-constructed deck.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. All right, so one of the notes that we talked about a little bit is that there are 20 white creatures among all the creatures, among the 30 creatures in this deck. So one of the first cards that we would actually suggest adding into the deck is Oketra's Monument.
Yep.
Pretty simple, 3 mana, legendary artifact. When white creature spells you cast cost 1 less. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with Vigilance.
It's going to reduce the cost of 2/3 of your creatures, and it'll make you tokens the whole time.
Yep.
So
for the rest of these, we are talking a little bit about this, looking at Marneus Calgar as the commander rather than Inquisitor Greyfax, because Inquisitor Greyfax, again, is a little bit split, a little bit odd in his abilities that they want to be able to split between those two different archetypes almost.
That's true. I think there's an argument to be made for either of them. The Calgar is going to draw you cards, which is what you want, but Inquisitor is also going to make all your tokens threatening because it's going to give them +1/+0 and vigilance. So I think these upgrades will work for either, but I definitely I think we talked about Calgar a little bit more when we're doing these. So the next card we have, a card that we undersold when we first previewed this, for sure, which was Wand of Orcas. 2 colors and a black legendary artifact equipment. Whenever a equipped creature attacks or blocks, it and zombies you control gain death touch until end of turn. And whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. And equips for 3.
Yeah.
So the first part of that, not really relevant for this deck. There's not zombies, so you're not going to be worried about that death touch. The second part is what really matters. Yeah. Being able to get a bunch of 2/2s based on how much damage you deal.
Because if you're looking at Marneus Calgar as your commander, and even if you're just putting it on it while it's in the deck, that's a double striking 3/5. Mm-hmm. You know, if it gets through, that's just going to do a bunch of damage. And then also, if you've got like your Celestine the Living Saint and things like that, you're going to be making a bunch because that's got flying, lifelink, and all that. So there's a lot going on here. The next card that we looked at was Divine Visitation. There are a lot of different ways that you can manipulate tokens, and especially in green, but also in white. This one's a little bit above our usual like $5, but not much because it's actually been recently.
I think it's like $8.
Yeah, it's like $8 now. Mm-hmm. So this is an enchantment, 3 white. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead.
Yep.
So if you're going to be creating those 1/1s or 2/2s that may not have evasion, now all of a sudden you've got big 4/4 flying vigilant tokens.
Yep. The next card we have is Mystic Reflection. Colorless and a blue instant. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature, and it has foretell for a blue. Jeremy, you've pulled this off in a couple games where it's been obnoxious. I think I'm more looking just for good value on my tokens to become a little bit bigger. Yep. I don't think I'm trying to do anything, Avenger of Zendikar styled with this. So a little bit more fair with my version of Mystic Reflection.
Yeah, like if you're gonna be making a bunch of tokens off of something like a Wand of Orcas, and then you just Mystic Reflection and you copy one of your non-legendary creatures, it's just gonna be good. You're just gonna get some value out of it.
Yep. Or if you play the next card we're gonna talk about for one less than what it costs.
Yeah, that's Grand Crescendo. And that is let's see here. That is X white instant. Create X 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So this one, when it came out, I was blown away by. This is basically a heroic intervention in white mixed with
Secure the
Wastes, which is normally a white and X, and makes a bunch of 1/1 creature tokens. But also heroic intervention, which is 1 and a green, and gives all your creatures indestructible and hexproof. Doesn't give them hexproof.
I'll exchange that.
Yeah, I'll exchange that for a bunch of tokens.
Yes. 100%.
As we were talking about, something like Exterminatus doesn't really work with this.
It kind of does, because Exterminatus only removes indestructible from your opponent's creatures.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying if somebody else has the Exterminatus.
Oh, yes. No, that doesn't help at all.
But
if you want to combo them, that is 9 mana.
Yeah, this is such a rare thing, though, that like removing indestructible from your creatures.
Yes.
It's still such a rare thing that Grand Crescendo is definitely worth it.
Yep. The next card we have is a Planeswalker, and it's Kaya Geist Hunter. Colorless white-black, 3 loyalty Planeswalker. +1 creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn, and you put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature token you control. Not too bad with the tokens in the deck, but number 2, the second ability is going to be the one we want, which is until end of turn, if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. So it's kind of anointed procession that doesn't cost $20 or $30. Exactly. And then you pay -6 and exile all cards from all graveyards, then create a 1/1 white spirit token with flying for each card exiled this way. Probably not getting to that very often. You're really just going to be more about kind of getting the +1/+1 counter, getting some death touch, and then kind of going back down and doing it again.
Yeah. And that's definitely one of the ones that we were talking about. Like there's a bunch of different ways to kind of manipulate in green and white Anointed Procession. In green, it's like Parallel Lives and things like that. So this being on a Planeswalker that's a decent amount cheaper as far as actual cost goes. This is like $250 is what we've got it listed at right now. So
yeah, that's right.
Pretty good. So the next one is definitely one of my favorites, and I think you like this one quite a bit as well.
I do.
It's Fischl Retreat. This is as soon as this one came out, I bought like 3 or 4 copies for my decks. It's an enchantment for 3 and a white, and it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn.
Yeah, this card is too good.
Yeah,
it should be a little weaker. I wanted to play a card like Court of Grace, which because I love the Monarch.
Oh yeah.
And then it gives you a 1/1 on your upkeep or a 4/4. That's just too long. This card immediately does it.
Yeah.
Just play a land. You have 2/2.
Yeah. You can use fetch lands to be able to just have.
You don't even have to have good ones. You can have Terramorphic Expanse, and all of a sudden you're making 2/2s
that are in most of these precon.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you've got a 2/2, or you've got a bunch of +1/+1 counters on your creatures, and when they try and give everything -2/2 or something like that.
Yeah, that card's going to be hard to beat on replacing for that spot in these decks.
Yeah.
Next card we have is Idol of Oblivion. I'm a big fan of this card. I know you kind of put it to us with this when we did the preconstructed decks many moons ago. 2 colorless artifact. You tap it to draw a card, and you can only activate it if you created a token this turn. And then you can pay 8 and sacrifice it to make a 10/10 Eldrazi creature token. We're really just looking for this for the value. Just trying to draw a card with it every turn or so. But this is just a real clean way of making sure that you can kind of continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think Idol of Oblivion is a fairly underrated card. If you're playing anything that can make any sort of tokens, you know, it's like less than $2 right now. So the next one is also a brand new card from Dominaria United. It's Protect the Negotiators. Instant for 1 and a blue, but it's one of the ones that has Kicker as its return, and it has Kicker for a white. If the spell was kicked, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, and it says counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each creature you control. So pretty simple, just counter spell, and you're probably going to have a decent amount of creatures that they're not going to be able to pay that much for. And if you have an extra white laying around, then you get an extra token.
Yep. So we didn't cover them, but this deck does have a ton of, or not a ton, but several large vehicles that are new from this. Obviously, we couldn't cover all 41 new cards, but to go with those large vehicles in the deck, Perhelion 2.
Yeah.
6 colors, white, legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 5/5 when you do crew it. Flying, first strike, and vigilance. Whenever it attacks, you create 2 4/4 angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking, and it crews for 4.
Yeah, this one's been in a bunch of precons as well.
It has. It just got reprinted in the Dominaria one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty big staple. We have suggested taking this one out of other precons before because of the fact that it is 8 mana.
It's true.
But if you're going to be playing this one's going to be like a big finisher in this deck.
Yep.
So. All right, so those are the upgrades that we are suggesting for this deck, the Forces of the Imperium deck from Warhammer 40,000. Most of them under the $5 range. A couple of them more. Crescendo is a little bit higher. Divine Visitation is a little bit higher, but all under $10 at the very least. So as far as cards that we should take out, we only looked at a couple here and there. And honestly, these ones are pretty synergistic. All these decks are. So like, if you had any specific card that you were looking at,
I didn't have a ton. So I think you can, like we said, there's a couple of different ways you can go with the deck, and I think basically you're going to be able to pick and choose which way you want to go, right? Yeah. If you want to lean into the token base a little bit more, there's some clean cards you can cut from here. It's that there's so many new cards, you really are going to want to try them out.
You just want to test them.
You're going to want to try them out. They're hard to evaluate. First off, how many miracle creatures existed before this set?
Right?
None.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Is the answer.
There's a bunch in this one, right?
There's a few.
Yeah.
So like, how is that going to work?
And by a bunch, I mean when we went from like almost 0 to
multiple
to like 5 or whatever that are in this deck. You want to test that out. There are a couple in here that I think, depending on how aggressive you're getting, because like For the Emperor is kind of it's what was the McKendy card? But it's a 3 and
Yeah.
3 and a white sorcery. Creatures you control get +2/+2 in vigilance and lifelink until end of turn. The lifelink is really where you want to be, but if it was just +2/+2 in vigilance for 4 mana, it's like eh.
Yep.
But if you really need to get that extra life, that's in there. But
There's other
that's
things,
one I would like, maybe take out.
If you're able to upgrade to the Grand Crescendo, you can move things like "And They Shall Know No Fear."
Yes.
Because you don't need the second kind of indestructible effect to give your team. There's a number of things that you can do here. It just really depends on where you want to go. If you're going to add Perihelion, you probably want to cut some of the underpowered vehicles that are in this deck to replace it for a giant finisher like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's kind of a test what you want more than here are some cards that are specifically like probably a little weaker overall.
Also, don't cut Deny the Witch because apparently that card's really good. I'd have been wrong, but here we are.
So, that is what we have for this deck, Forces of the Imperium. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, binge, and make sure to also let us know what cards you would add into the deck in the comments below. And make sure to check out all of our other upgrades for the Warhammer 40,000 Commander decks and all of our other upgrade episodes for previous Commander decks. For Jonathan Suarez, I am Jeremy Knoll, and we will see you next time.